Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to another episode of the Geek Bravado Ramble. It is middle of the week, and I am tired and cranky for a number of different reasons. But I said in my last video about Extra Life that I wanted to do a couple of blog entries this week on problems I foresee happening or challenges that I maybe see coming in the realm of online video that is more the rage now than it's ever been. And there's two principal things I wanted to talk about today, but the first one is on the subject of Let's Plays in particular, live streaming, YouTube, the idea of playing a game through on video and talking over it, the from front to back, that type of Let's Play, and how that I believe that with the erosion of the industry problem of used game sales, that I think Let's Plays have the potential to be the next industry boogeyman, and how it's kind of interesting because the industry in many ways is facilitating the idea of Let's Plays to a very large degree, especially with the new machines that are coming out, and that they may be very well fostering their next big problem. So, as many people who've been following gaming and the business side of it like I have for quite some time will know, the game industry, like most major corporate-run creative industries like Hollywood, music, television, etc., all tend to have their boogeyman of the day. That is the latest reason why their products are not selling enough, and the latest reason why it's their problems and their financial failings are always someone else's fault but theirs. In many of these industries, there has been cross-pollination of these reasons. Piracy is a big one. Piracy is killing us. I have some fairly strong opinions on piracy that I will put down in written and video form someday. I'm calling that idea piracy. Everybody's wrong, but that's for another time. And there's been a lot of other reasons. The game industry's biggest boogeyman for the last couple of years, not so much this year, they've been kind of silent on it, was used games. And the idea that they don't get a cut of used sales, that all goes to retailers, and retailers push used games too hard, and everyone who buys a used game is just a new sale that was lost. An argument they made kind of like that with piracy too, and some other things like that. And basically how this industry is failing and is in dire straits, and that was the reason why. There was some case to be made for that point of view, a lot of case that it was largely nonsense, and that not a lot of actual potential business was being lost as a result of that. Now, they don't tend to have a boogeyman right now. I think principally because they're focusing on getting these new platforms launched and digging in and seeing what happens with that. The industry right now is just having a lot of problems. Big games are having a very hard time making money if they are surefire blockbusters. There's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of publishers for a while, and a lot of gamers too, thought, well, everybody's just going to move to tablets and cell phones. That's quickly proving to be just as risky, if not more risky, than big console games are, and not the surefire goldmine that everybody thought. Social games are melting down, and I don't think it's unreasonable to look for externalities, which is the horrible corporate term for it, but external forces that contribute to an industry's problems. It's not, sometimes it's not always the industry's direct fault that things are not going so well. A lot of the time it is, but not always. But what I find fascinating is the whole concept of Let's Plays, and how it looks so obvious to me that how that could be the industry's next big problem, but how they're really sort of letting it just sweep in right under their nose and not seem to do very much about it. So, I'll be honest with you, even as someone who has attempted to do some kind of co-op Let's Play stuff in the past, I don't get Let's Plays. I've watched plenty of them. I just don't get it. Video games are not movies. They're not television. I want to play games. That's the whole point of games, is that you play them. If I want to just watch something, I'll watch a movie or I'll watch a TV show or something like that. I'd never understood the whole idea of watching someone play a video game, because to be honest with you, the biggest problem that a lot of people say is that video games have bad stories, and in many cases they do, but some of that is also because they have stories that are best framed around the concept of interactivity. That is, a story that you are an active participant in, or that you are actively driving forward, as opposed to something you are passively sitting back and watching. When I'm playing a video game story, I can find it much more interesting than if I'm just sitting back and watching it, which is what you do with a Let's Play. I just don't see the appeal. But you know what? Let's Plays are incredibly popular. Some of the biggest YouTubers out there whose channels are lighting the world on fire, whereas mine is not, are doing so on the back of Let's Plays. And they're doing very, very well. And I actually know several people who used to be huge hardcore gamers, arguably a lot bigger than I am, who play far fewer games now and consume a lot of stuff through Let's Plays. They'll just look at particularly single-player experiences and go, yeah, I can just watch this and I can get the idea of the story and I can see all the big set pieces, and that's good enough for me. I don't really know what the reasoning is behind that. A lot of these people, they have the time to play games. They just don't. Because that's the thing, right? If you're watching a Let's Play, you're not devoting any less time to it, to seeing that game experience through to the end, as if you played it yourself. I mean, I guess you can skip segments of it or whatever, but if you're watching a story-based game, why would you want to do that? Doesn't make any sense. So you're not putting in any less time. I guess you are putting in less money because you don't have to buy the product, but you're also not consuming the product the way it was intended. So, never understood it, but there's a lot of popular things that I don't understand either. So, Justin Bieber's popular, you know. But the fact is, Let's Plays are a big deal, and they're here to stay for a while. They've proven themselves to not be just a fad. Whether they have a super long-term future is still up for debate, but they're not a flash in the pan. The people who are doing them and doing them well are making a living off of it. So, hey, that's, it's created the cottage industry. So that says something. But the reason I think this is the potential industry's next boogeyman is very, very simple. I kind of stated it there. People are watching people play the games rather than buying them. Simple as that. It's if you are someone who would play a game or who would buy a game to play it and are instead choosing to watch someone play through that same game, that is a lost sale. That is someone who was going to buy the game and now is not. And a lot of the people that I know who are watching Let's Plays, a lot of those people, maybe a lot of those games they wouldn't buy and they would just skip entirely if Let's Plays just weren't available to them. But I know some of these guys who, like I said, actively play less games because they're consuming them that way. And therefore they are buying less games and they are contributing less to the industry, an industry that desperately needs every sale it can get right now. And you wouldn't think that that would be a hard line to draw. You would think that the executives, and not even the executives, but some of the lower level people running the show at some of these big companies would look at this and go, whoa, these guys are profiting off of our work. And I've actually listened to Totalbiscuit has a rather interesting opinion on Let's Plays, which is that he says he doesn't dislike the concept, especially when it comes to multiplayer products, but he really dislikes the concept in single player because, especially if you don't provide a lot of commentary or your own unique flair, whether if you don't make it funny, if you don't make it dramatic, if you don't wrap your own shtick around the experience, if you're literally just playing a single player game, watching it, and occasionally interjecting your own little bit of overlay commentary into it, you really are profiting off of someone else's work. Someone else made the game. That person is not getting paid because someone is watching you play it rather than paying to play it, and you're making money off of it. You get a cut of that ad revenue. The publisher doesn't, or the developer doesn't. You could say the developer does. You can do. That's the thing. Let's Plays exist for tiny indie games as well, where it's not some multi-billion-dollar greedy corporation that's losing out on the sale. It's the guy who needs that money to eat and make more games. And there's lots of people saying. There's a big argument to that, I think, that can be made there to say, well, yeah, you're profiting off of someone else's hard work, and you're taking money out of their pockets and putting it into yours, and that's not really fair. It is a very similar argument that you can make to used games, which is, well, is that really a lost sale? And making a derivative work is not really unfair, etc. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I get where he's coming from. Total Biscuit doesn't really support used games either, and I don't wholly agree with him on his stance for that. But yeah. But the reason I think this is so fascinating is that not only is the industry not saying anything about it, I mean, that's the thing. You can say, oh, big companies move slowly, and this is just big businesses that don't get it, letting another trend get big before they realize it's a problem, etc., etc. I don't buy that. Not in this industry. In music and movies, maybe. But the game industry is fundamentally a technology industry, especially AAA. AAA is all about pushing the envelope with the latest technology. These are smart people. These are educated people. These are people that are current on trends, especially in the technology space. These people know this is happening. They know it's out there. They're not ignorant of it. They're, the guys who are running EA and Ubisoft, I'm sure are aware of what Let's Plays are. I'm sure they've seen the idea. If not, they've had people not far below them telling them about them. They certainly are. They're aware of them, but they don't seem to have done much about it, or don't see it as very much of a threat. And that has really surprised me, because with how big Let's Plays have gotten, and how many people just I know personally who were what you would call core gamers that are playing, or rather consuming, a Let's Play and playing a lot less games as a result, I find that it's amazing that the industry hasn't made a bigger deal of it. And the funny thing is that used games are a very hard thing to control because of things like the first sale doctrine. The industry pretty much has no legal ground to say you cannot resell our products. One of the reasons that they have kind of calmed down about used games is the fact that, like it or not, we are moving to an all-digital future. The next-gen machines that are about to come out, they are trying to make that the reality. They're trying to make digital the main thing. And I guarantee you that the generation after this one, if there is one, will have no physical disc drives in them. And I would not be surprised if we see later cheaper versions of the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 that come with no optical drives, in order to bring the price down, to drive people to buy games wholly digitally. That's how they're overcoming used games. They're basically removing, because first sale doctrine only applies to physical goods, at least for now. So they can, by removing the physical goods out of the equation, they win the battle by default. And the funny thing is, though, right out the gate, they have more power when it comes to Let's Plays. I've experienced this myself, as have a lot of other people. Go look up the Day One Gary's Incident video that Total Biscuit put up. Publishers and developers own the copyrights to their games, and they have all the power. If they don't like somebody using their content on YouTube, it doesn't matter how big you are, they can go to YouTube and say, oi, this guy's using my stuff, I don't want him to, and YouTube has to, by law, slam the door. And it's frustrating, because YouTube has to shoot first and ask questions later. They're not allowed to review the process to see how the video is being used, to see if it qualifies for fair use. They have to immediately take the video down, penalize the video creator, and it's up to that guy or gal to make their case to have their strike removed, which is what Total Biscuit had to do. He got the developer to relent because he's big and his audience is very vocal. A lot of the smaller guys don't have that option, and the fact is, even big guys like Total Biscuit, or God forbid PewDiePie, or any of those other guys, they can get themselves. The industry has all the power in that situation. They can kill Let's Plays very quickly if they want, and they're not only are they not doing that, but they're making it easier than ever. Big features that are being touted on the new consoles are the fact that they both have Twitch and video sharing integration built in. The Xbox One will do Twitch live streaming and YouTube export at the OS level. The PlayStation 4 will do Twitch and Sony's proprietary video platform at launch, but apparently YouTube is coming later. So it's built right in. You don't even need to go out and buy a $150 capture device now if you don't want to. It's in the OS. You press a button, you're live streaming, done. And they have made Let's Plays stupid simple. The platform holders have struck these partnerships with the industry's blessing to add this functionality to their boxes, and it's there. And it's going to happen. It's supposedly there are rumors about how much control publishers have over this. Apparently, at least on the PlayStation 4, a publisher can say that certain sections of a game cannot be shared, cannot be exported, cannot be streamed, etc., etc. Nobody knows how strong those restrictions are. We won't until the boxes come out, which is pretty soon. Actually, might be better if I did this after that, but maybe I'll do a follow up. But the base capability is there, and frankly, even if the consoles do restrict it, there are capture boxes out there, and I believe both platform holders have stated that they will be taking HDMI encryption off in later updates, and even if they don't, there's ways around that. Anyone who's making a living on YouTube from Let's Plays, there's a way to keep doing them, and they'll find a way. It's inevitable. And I find it amazing that the industry has lined up to facilitate this and just to let it happen and to say, well, yeah, we're gonna give every user, including those who didn't have the knowledge or the want before to do things like Let's Plays, we're going to give that power to everyone, and we're going to make it simple. I think it's cool in the sense that I think it's a great thing to enable. I would like to think that this is the industry being somewhat progressive and realizing, well, we can't ultimately stomp this out, so we might as well embrace it. And maybe we can find a way to make money of it later. Maybe we can find a way to share revenue with these creators, to approach them with an olive branch rather than a closed fist and say, hey, you're making money off our product, but I tell you what, how about you make a little bit less? We'll let you keep making money, but how about you make a little bit less and we'll take a little bit of a piece and everybody wins. That would be the smart thing to do. Traditionally, that is not what this industry or other big creative industries have done. Maybe that's the case, but I don't know if that's true. And I do really wonder if in a year or 2 years, when there's many millions of these boxes out there and when there are lots and lots of voices putting out content, I wonder if the industry is just going to suddenly realize that they made a horrible mistake and all of a sudden goes, oh crap, what are we going to do about this? And either starts severely implementing those restrictions on the console side, sort of neutering a lot of the functionality, or if they start maybe abusing the YouTube copyright system or the American copyright system and go, yeah, we'll let you put this stuff up, but if you put up major spoilers of our game, or if you put up too much of it, or if you do a full Let's Play, we're gonna shut you down. And basically, once again, we'll see an industry at war with its customers. And it's funny. You would think that this is something, like I said before, the industry is not stupid. It's a technology-driven industry. They know about this. I guarantee you they know about this. And they know about its challenges and perceived threat. So you really have to think either they've just let this stuff come in and are ignoring it, thinking it's going to go away or it's a fad, or maybe they have learned something and they've decided that it's worth embracing and doing it in such a way that they can find ways to make more money while also letting their customers make money, thereby becoming bigger advocates for them. I think that's the smarter long-form play. Problem is, especially in the AAA space, with the way this industry is bleeding money right now, maybe they don't have enough time to really make that happen. Maybe they feel they'll need to crack the whip sooner, because a long form play to make money alongside your users might be a longer play than they can afford to make right now, or that they think they can afford to make. I think how these new consoles do, and in particular how well the games do on these new systems, if this can reinvigorate an industry that was on fire only a couple of years ago and is now kind of in some pretty bad ways. The word crash is getting thrown around, I think, unfairly and unreasonably, but nonetheless it's out there. If these consoles do breathe new life back into the industry and get people buying real games again, not crappy mobile time wasters, but real games again, and then I think they might go, all right, stuff's going good, we're on board with everything, let's just roll with this. But I wonder if in a year or 2 years, if things keep going badly and the new games don't sell and gamers keep lining up for the same tired crap and the bleeding continues and more companies start hurting, if we're not going to see them really start to clamp down more and point at Let's Plays and go, you're our problem now. You're the reason we're failing. Not because we're not making stuff people want to play or because we're spending too much money or because we can't manage properly, but, it's you guys. It's the Let's Players. You're basically pirates. And if we're all of a sudden going to see them 180 on the seemingly friendly position that they have adopted so far towards it, I don't know. That's why I call the post "Let's Plays are the next used games," because I think that's going to be the case. But it could go either way. We've seen that with used games. Used games were very much treated as the enemy for a while, and now they're kind of not. They're not really treated as a friend, but they're tolerated. Mostly because the industry sees a way to get out of that. Let's Plays are not going to be the same thing. They can't, they can get rid of used games by getting rid of discs. They can't do that unless Twitch and YouTube go out of business, which they probably won't. Then they're not going to be able to just get rid of these things unless they pull the plug or they start to restrict it. And if they do that, they're all of a sudden going to be fighting their user base again, and we're going to be right back to where we were before. So, as I said, I would like to think that this is the industry being smart and thinking about it, and maybe thinking more than just about the next quarter, thinking about the true future and how they can work with us gamers instead of against us gamers while also asking for our money. I don't know. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But it's going to be interesting. Live streaming is a big deal already. YouTube Let's Plays are a big deal already. And when you give that power to anyone and everyone, there's going to be a lot more of it. And it's right on top of us. So I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah. So that's sort of my thoughts on that. Eventually we'll see how it shakes out, and maybe I'll revisit this and see if I was right or wrong. I'm not bad sometimes when it comes to industry predictions, but I've been wrong plenty of times as well. So we will see what happens. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.